I'm Mark Stewart, and I want to address 3 more questions that were asked by DTC members. This is to all of you. Frankly, this is to all voters listening. Questions are very good. This is up to number 11 now. Which of the recommendations of the Blue Ribbon Committee for Fiscal Responsibility do you support and why? Well, I was at the Capitol when one of its main authors, Mr. Petrocelli, presented it, and Governor Malloy was there, and I generally like them. If you haven't read any of these recommendations, I'll sum it up in short. Be responsible. We've been incredibly irresponsible in government, and these do have significant changes that Connecticut has to implement. I have some differences. Up at number 1, they're willing to raise the sales tax. I think we should lower it, and we can if we are willing to take on a taxation of online sales. 3%, maybe 4%. Stuff online is so cheap anyway. And right now, brick and mortar are at such a disadvantage. That's our people in the state losing out to somebody selling stuff from Nevada or somebody selling online. 3-4%. That's a revenue stream coming in. It means we don't have to raise our sales tax, and maybe we could lower it. I don't really love that they aren't looking to reduce income taxes greatly. It should be down to 0. By the end of my 4 years, it will be. Finally, they seem to have overlooked a better than tolling way of getting revenue, and that's mileage-based user fees. Okay, how they could overlook something that's working in Oregon, soon will be working in Washington and California, and not look at the almost infinitely better system for capturing revenue without gantries, without wrangling between people who are commuters or not. They can still decide whether they want to tax out-of-staters more. I don't think they should, but it's so easy to implement. I hope my legislators will push for it in this General Assembly session. My number 2, how do you plan to support people of color and the LGBTQ community? This is important. My support is fervent, because my support, it's this simple, is to treat them like everybody else, which is all that they want, unless you're very militant, and that is a problem. I don't want militancy. Militancy is what's going to drive people away from Democrats. When state governments accept the militant point of view of gays, that our textbooks need to be changed to reflect contributions that maybe shouldn't have been reflected just because of who somebody slept with, that is a distortion. Our kids don't need to be the victims of changing history because it makes a few people feel good. More victimhood. In some assemblies, states have enacted laws that say boys can be in girls' locker rooms if they feel more like a girl than a boy. Well, guess what? At some time in most boys' lives, they feel a little more like a girl, okay? I'm not going to let my governments jeopardize the safety and privacy of every girl in the school because somebody feels a little differently at some point. Even worse, in Charlotte, they allowed men, predatory men potentially, to be in women's restrooms. All because of a feel-good agenda. The best feel-good is to do good. And we who are tolerant, which is almost every single one of us, and for the few who are not, don't do business with them. Okay, that's the best way to deal. Don't try to change them, certainly not by government force. Ostracize them. Be good to gays. Be good to people of color. My top choice for lieutenant governor is an African American. Okay, she's better than me. She is, and I'm pretty good. My top person who I read about education issues is a gay man. I don't treat them and think of them any differently. We can do the same. Last one for now. What is your investment philosophy for higher education? Really good phrasing, because investment for higher education is a big deal. Senator Fanfara from Hartford was called out wrongly because he would like to see UConn remodel itself to be more attractive for business majors and science majors. That's a good idea, and it's a necessary idea given that we pay for UConn. There is a state benefit or a state loss if you don't keep up with the times. And for the last 15 years, the trend has been unmistakably towards better attendance at institutions that are more practical. The highest moving college in the country, Northeastern. Now, in part because Boston has had a heyday for the last 15 years, but Northeastern became a much more sought-after school because of its devotion to pragmatics. Technical schools are seeing more and more applicants. UConn should be changing, and I would withhold funding if they don't radically do that. All right, more to come. Thank you for all your questions. Again, I'm Mark Stewart. I look to be taking on many of these starting January 2019.